All right, we're getting ready to do a show. Hey, Jamie. Hey, Hayden.
Good morning, Greg.
Good morning.
The snow troopers actually showed up to do a radio show and come to work in the blizzard of 2016. Getting ready to start the radio show, the Elder Law Report. It's going to be a great show today. Morning, Milton.
Morning.
I drove my snowplow to work today. Yeah, I just thought I'd do double duty. I get paid for snowplow on the roads, and I just went ahead. Don't tell anybody I stopped off at the radio station to do the show. I'm Greg McIntyre. I'm your weatherman today. It is a wintry mix out there, and it's going to drop between 1 or 20 inches on us over the weekend. How about that? That's what I was laughing at yesterday. It's like, yeah, oh, dude, that's what Milton. I mean, that's what everybody, that was all the radio shows, or not radio shows, but the news stations yesterday. It's like, oh, it's going to drop between 2 and 24 inches on us. I'm like, dude, that's between like pretty much nothing or 2 feet. You know, I mean, that's a big area.
They're not making an error in saying that. So
that's like me being an estate planning and elder law attorney and telling you, you know, we're either going to save all your assets or none of them. Okay? I mean, I'm not sure which one, but maybe.
Well, you're a little bit more precise than the weatherman.
That's correct.
You can give someone an idea of what you can do pretty much.
Yeah. So, you know, me being the weatherman, I could be a weatherman right now. That's what I'm saying. I just was. 2 and 24 inches. Stay classy, Cleveland County. How about that? Lincoln County. So I have a guest here today who is a rerun. Okay? He's a sage financial planner.
He's doing an encore performance.
Performance.
Get your radio link in.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I can't say rerun?
Sure.
No? Okay.
Rerun.
Do you remember rerun? Okay. Hey, there you go. So it's Jamie Richard. Jamie Richard's in the house today, and Jamie is a premier financial planner with Edward Jones Investments, and we're going to talk today about some of the ways you can help protect your hard-earned money and property from a financial aspect. And can you please stand and introduce yourself, Jamie?
I'm Jamie Richard with Edward Jones Investments. My office is at 1427 East Marion Street. And again, I rode in on that snowplow that Greg was driving. I was on the back of it.
That's right. Hayden drove herself because she drove to work. I had to pick her up at work on the snowplow. I told Hayden not to come to work today, and she showed up anyway. So you know, that's what I wanted to talk to about today is work ethic, the greatest generation, and just how in the world did that all happen. And I think that everybody's sitting at home. Usually I say sitting on the porch drinking a cup of coffee. You might not be sitting on the porch today. If you are, put on your big coat and bundle up. But you know, hopefully, I'm thinking we probably have a lot of people at home today. What do you think, Abe?
Definitely.
Except for me, you, and Jamie.
That's right.
You know?
I passed two cars on the way to work this morning.
Really? That were off the road?
One off the road. 2 other cars, or until I got to civilization.
Oh, right. You mean just on the road,
Yeah.
period. Yeah. So I mean, but you know, what happened to that drive, that work ethic that built this nation and led the world? What do you think?
I don't know. I credit my work ethic to my parents, and I don't think it's always the case that the parents didn't instill work ethic in the kids. But I know there are a lot of kids now who are allowed to stay out of school many days that I would have had to have gone.
Right.
You know, we walked to school in the snow. They didn't stop school
Uphill,
back
both
then.
ways.
5 miles.
Right.
Whatever
Right.
your parents used to say, I want 5 miles of school in the
Yeah.
snow.
But you got there, you did it, and you know, a lot of that harkens back. Hayden, you're obviously too young for any of this, but and this is, by the way, we changed instead of Hurricane Hayden Soloway. It's now Snowicane Hayden Soloway because she shows up whether it's the hurricane or the blizzard of 2016. And that, you know, we're proud to come to you. Hey, if you want to call us today, give us a call here at the station. We'd love to hear from you. We want to talk about work ethic, the greatest generation. Jamie, you had a term for that generation too that I'd never heard before. What do you call it? The great savers. Is that right?
Oh, the great savers.
The
yes.
great savers, because they were savers.
Oh yes, they were. I think they had the idea that we want to make things better for our children and our grandchildren, and so the way to do that was to always be saving what they had. Plus, a lot of these people came through the Great Depression when they didn't have anything.
Right.
So they knew what a paper bag was, or they knew what the importance of just these small things that we take for granted, we throw away. I remember my grandmother who went through this. She saved every paper bag and every newspaper she ever had. And I asked her one day, I said, "Why do you save these things?" She said, "Because I remember going through the Depression when we didn't have them, when we were happy to have a newspaper or happy to have a paper bag." Yeah.
Well, they used them for
Yeah.
different things too.
Oh, yes.
Sometimes my grandmother used to pull newspapers over her, and that's what kept her warm on the sofa. And when she wouldn't go get a blanket, she just used the papers.
To use the newspaper.
Yeah, you just unfolded the newspaper and put it
Right.
away.
Well, I've never done that.
I use paper bags for other things.
Right.
I try to reuse.
You stitch up like carrying bags, cloth carrying bags and things. You restitch the handles on carrying bags, I've noticed.
Well, it was a pretty nice tote bag, and it was
Yeah, the totes.
big enough to carry the things.
Well,
that
you
take
fix
to
things.
seminars.
You took care of things. If they broke, you fixed them. We live in a very disposable society now, and it just seems like we said, like the new generation. I'm going to get angry calls from young kids today. It is, but it's the me generation. It's not necessarily. They just don't have the same mentality, work ethic, saving, taking care of things mentality, hard work that greatest generation had. I don't think.
Well, and employers have kind of had to adapt. In the days when I was first working, and certainly in the days of my parents, if you missed a day of work without calling in, you were fired.
Right.
If you came in late and didn't call, you were subject to either at least a warning, a written warning, or you were fired. And now it's not uncommon for employers to have to just deal with it. And, people 3, 4, 5 times, didn't call in. Well, honestly, I know from working for a staffing firm, staffing service, PSU, that happens, that employers have had to adapt.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to adapt. I think I'm pretty lenient. But so I just think the work ethic was so great. There was a cohesive sense of purpose. And by the greatest generation, what I think of is that generation during the mid 1900s, from like the 40s on, the 40s to the 80s maybe, that really led this country and the world. They had a cohesive sense of purpose, work ethic, and patriotism. They really did. And so you had the Depression. You were coming out of the Depression, then going into World War II, right? And which was just a horrific thing, but also a unifying thing for the world and the country, and the Allies at least, right? And you had tons of young men and women really who were working for that cause. Even women, are going overseas to help, work in hospitals and do different things for that cause. Men who were in foxholes planning, and that's what a term I came up with doing, just thinking about the show, foxhole planning. And I've read a lot about this actually. That you had a lot of young men over there who were taking time to plan. They were in stressful situations, but they had some time on their hands, and they were planning on what they would do when they get back home, and what they were going to do with their lives, and what they were going to be like, and they would envision that in their mind's eye.
A lot of dreams.
And dream about that, and just really think those things through, and then they came back, and they implemented those plans. And a lot of the speculation on what made that generation so great and the economy go so well and build and lead the world really is a lot of those American GIs who were over there and had all that time on their hand thinking and planning. And so foxhole planning is what allowed them to accumulate really the greatest amount of wealth on record. And what we're looking at right now with the aging baby boomer population is the turnover of that wealth to a new generation. And the greatest wealth turnover in history.
In the history of our nation.
In the history of our nation.
Well, the wealth turnover is coming from one generation, hopefully, to another. Hopefully it will go to the children.
And
So
not
that's
go
part of
back
what-
to the government
Exactly.
or other places,
We can
traps
control,
out there.
We can control who controls the money.
The individual can if they do their own foxhole planning. And that was my thought, is we really need to get back to some foxhole planning.
Yeah.
Certainly we don't need to go back to war, but we need to go back to the planning mode where we're planning to save that hard-earned money and property we worked so hard for and
For the
pass
next
that on
generation.
to the next generation. And you can do that through legal planning, and you can do that through financial planning. Wouldn't
That's
you
right.
think?
Oh, yes, that's correct.
So what are some ways, Jamie? I know, and I gave a seminar yesterday on pre-planning against the healthcare situation and the Medicaid spend down. I showcased the Medicaid Asset Protection Trust. We had a specialty show a couple of weeks ago here on the radio station where we showcased the Medicaid Asset Protection Trust and pre-planning.
And we have never had as much as
Feedback.
many questions,
Yeah.
and once they began to find out more about it, there were more questions. Well, can you do this, and can you do this? And we got a lot of response from people who want to come back and hear more.
Because
so there's stuff you don't know that you don't even know to ask about, and that's the thing. Knowledge is power. Have the knowledge, get the knowledge, so you can make the best decisions. Whether it's about the Medicaid Asset Protection Trust or other trust, or about the long-term care insurance.
How many what percentage of seniors are going to need some type of long-term care during their life?
70%, 69 point ...
Close to 70%
Yes.
of seniors, right?
And if you figure a couple, that's two people who are looking at
Is that
possible...
140%?
No.
No?
But it's two people who have the same odds. So
Right.
the odds are, if you've got two people with a 70% likelihood,
Right.
they're going to need long-term care. You can pretty well figure that one of the two of them is going to be higher.
And that's
Ever
one of the
seen
greatest,
that.
drains on wealth in your retirement assets is having to pay out of pocket for that care. So instead of simply, relegating yourself to that, there are other options. Jamie, what other options are there out there to help give yourself a buffer in time and money to pay for that kind of care at that age?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we use at Edward Jones is long-term care, and we use the insurance products. We have a lot of different insurance companies that we work with, and the old traditional long-term care was where you paid every month or you paid every year, and basically you would have maybe 3 years or 4 years or 5 years of long-term care that would maybe pay you $100 a day or $150 a day. But the problem came in if you never used this particular product, if you didn't go into a long-term care facility or need home health care, then basically you lost that premiums that you were putting in, the $2,000, $3,000 every year. But nowadays they've come up with new types of long-term care. One is called the Lincoln Money Guard, where you can put in a lump sum. Say you put in $25,000 into it, and it's going to give you so much death benefit. Maybe, say for a 60-year-old lady, it might give her, if you put $25,000 premium into it up front, maybe it would give her $80,000 worth of life insurance, and then by the time she's 85, maybe she's also got about $385,000 worth of long-term care assets that she can use toward the long-term care. And so they've come up with lots of new products nowadays. There's also Prudential has a life insurance policy with a chronic care rider, so that if you say you have $250,000 worth of universal life insurance, you can tap into that universal life, the $250,000 death benefit, and use it during your lifetime while you're still alive if you need long-term care.
Jamie, it sounds like there's just a lot of other alternatives compared to traditional old school long-term care insurance out there.
Yes, there is. And that's why, we need to sit down with each individual and each family and decide what's best for your particular situation, because somebody who's got a lot of life insurance already may not need the product that's geared toward life insurance. Maybe they need it geared more toward the long-term care aspect of it, and deciding how to pay for it. Some people would have a larger lump sum of money they could put into it. Other people may have to pay monthly or pay each year for the premiums.
And let me say, here's why this is so important to the senior. I meet with people all the time that are going through a situation where they're distraught because their money's being spent down at a rate of 50, 60, 80, 100,000 per year to pay for long-term care, okay? For a loved one, maybe their husband, maybe their wife, maybe their parent, okay? And their whole retirement savings that they've saved their entire life for, say a husband and wife, is really going away. And they're scared that they're not going to have anything left. Wife is distraught because she's like, what am I going to do? I've got 20, 30 more healthy years to live. If you have long-term care insurance in place, either traditional or a hybrid product, it can take that whole situation away. That problem doesn't occur because it simply kicks in and starts paying for the care.
Yes.
And it gives you either a total dollar amount care or a time limit, 3-5 years that it's or more that it's going to pay out for health care.
That's right. And the average stay, I think, for an individual in a long-term care facility is about 2.8 years. So men usually don't last quite as long, and their average life stay in a long-term care is maybe 2 years, whereas a woman might be 3.5 years. And I've talked to a lot of different people about that, and I think men tend to feel if they go into a nursing home, they put in prison, and so they don't live as long. Whereas women go in there and they really like the fact they can talk and chat with their neighbor up the hall. And,
I hadn't thought about the socialization.
Yeah, so they enjoy the social aspects of it, so they live a little longer. And so you take, say, a woman that's in a nursing home and she lives there 5 years, and if you're paying out $80,000 a year, pretty soon you've run through $400,000 worth of assets.
Wow.
So it can be very, very expensive. And a lot of people think that, oh, well, I've got Medicare. That's going to take care of everything.
Right.
Well, we find out very quickly. I mean, Medicare may pay for, about 60 days or so once you have to have left the hospital. And
there's some funky formulas. The rule of thumb is, Medicare is going to pay for about 20, 21 days, and then if if you have the supplement, it'll kick in and pay for another 80. Okay,
80 days,
so it gives you usually a window of 100 days before you got to start dipping into that maybe $400,000 in savings that you had that you thought was a lot of money, and you find out really quickly after that, that's going to go away.
Right.
It's going to just go away.
Yeah, and so somebody, even with $500,000 in a retirement asset, maybe in their IRA, they think, oh, I've got plenty of money to live on for the rest of my life. But you take a married couple and one of them ends up in a nursing home, next thing you know, they've spent down the majority of that money, and then the spouse might be left for another 10 years and living in poverty.
Well, your grandfather was in a long-term care facility for many years.
He was
And there are people like
in
that.
Shelby Manor for like 15 years.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So-
But he loved it. He loved it
Yeah.
there. That was his little apartment there.
That's nursing homes.
Yeah.
And they're improving.
Well, that was an
I go in
assisted
them
living
now, and they're so
facility.
much
Yeah.
different than my grandmother's day.
I'll tell you what. I've got a special treat for everybody. I want you to hang in there. I've got a really special treat today. It's one that I've had queued up a few times to play. Hadn't had time to do it. I'm going to make time to do it today because we're talking about the greatest generation, Foxhole planning, and wealth preservation, and that's a And thank you, Jamie, for talking about long-term care, because that's what we're talking about, is engaging in that Foxhole planning now that made the greatest generation so great, made them accumulate that much wealth. It's time to get back to that type of planning again and to save your hard-earned money and property. Long-term care insurance is one way to do that. Legal planning, having that piece in place, is another way to do that. And obviously, I help you with that. Jamie, if people want to call you and talk about that hybrid product, before we get to that interview with World War II veteran J.C. Horn, my grandfather, which is part of that greatest generation, was part of that greatest generation. Jamie, if people want to call you and they want to talk about, just talk about a long-term care solution and what might work for them, just to plan ahead, who would they call? What number is it, and what do they need to say?
Yeah, my number is 704-481-0388. Again, 481-0388. And my branch office assistant, her name is Penny Newton, and she'll be glad to answer the phone and talk to you. And she can either set up a time, an appointment time where you can come into the office and talk to me, or if I'm available at that time, I'll be glad to talk to you on the phone right away.
Penny is amazing. Penny helps everybody, I think.
She is. She's really good.
Jamie, my office, Hayden's dealt with Penny on a number of occasions.
We worked at a seminar together.
Yeah, I've had Penny for a little over 2 years now, and very happy with Penny. I think Penny enjoys her job, and she even called today to see if she needed to come in. I told her to stay at home.
And that's the American attitude right there. That's the can-do spirit. Everyone out there, I'm getting ready to play for you an interview that I did when I was probably 11, 12, 13 years, somewhere around there, maybe 12. I'm going to call it 12 years old. Maybe even 11. I was around Tucker's age, okay? Tucker looks very much like me. He's my son. He's an 11-year-old. He doesn't necessarily sound like me, though. The polished radio personality that I am today. It's you'll hear it. You wait. And you picture me, but with a little bitty round face and buck teeth that stuck almost straight out, like a bunny rabbit, except a bunny rabbit that had his teeth going straight out instead of down. Okay? Literally. And I love my grandfather, J.C. Horn, to death. We used to sit there all the time and play cards, 21, in poker. Okay? He taught me how to play poker. All right? So, Mom, close your ears. Papa taught me how to play poker. Anyway, so we'd play cards together when he was on the couch there. And then I would help him garden. He taught me how to garden. He ended up passing away from throat cancer, okay? And I helped take care of him during that time and stay with him that summer. And I remember one of the best things of his life, he said, was sitting back under a shade tree and watching me till the garden, which he had about an acre in the back of the house there that they were turning into a large garden. And I really enjoyed it. He was my best friend and my buddy. And he would never talk about World War II and his experiences. In fact, my grandmother got angry with me when I asked or wanted to interview him.
Yeah, anybody might want to say, anybody who has someone in the home that went through the war or would like to hear this story, go get them to the radio.
Yeah, turn up your radio. Probably not too many people listening in the car today, unless you have a snowplow like me. So she got angry with me when I wanted to interview her, and because not super angry, she just was like, you know, he doesn't like to talk about it, right? But I was doing it. I think it was for a school project, and I said, okay, fine, And he came to me. I was probably pretty persistent.
Probably.
Yeah. But he came to me and said, Greg, I want to do this. Okay. He would never talk to anybody about it. So he talked to me. Please excuse the quality of the recording. He had a partial laryngectomy at the time, which means his voice was very gravelly. Okay, at the time. But it's awesome. If you want to see it, go to the YouTube channel. Check us out, and you can rewatch it, or go to the website, mcelderlaw.com, and you can rewatch it. Milton, would you mind playing that for us?
All right.
Thank you.